Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to our live stream, guys. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. We have a couple of people in the audience, and we'll get to that in just a second. Tonight we have a very special show, but remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash all of those subscribe buttons. Before I introduce our special guest tonight, I want everybody to say hello to Mr. Jim Alabiso, my co-host. Jim, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Been a great week. Thanks for having me on again as a guest host, especially with Deborah Reid on.
I know.
Deborah Reid is really awesome, so I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so with that, our special guest tonight is Deborah Reid. She is an artist, an author, an attorney, the author of Copyright Artfully Explained, the illustrated legal reference for visual artists. Deborah, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Tracy. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you, Jim.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah,
we'll see you at the next concert.
Exactly. Well, listen, because I know it may sound like a silly question, but you're an artist and an attorney. So what was your journey behind writing the book Copyright Artfully Explained?
Okay, well, I'm a lifelong artist.
Mm-hmm.
I started college as an art major, quickly decided to become a lawyer because I needed a viable lifestyle or career. But I've always maintained my interest in art. And copyright law and art intersect a lot. Copyright law is the intellectual property that protects creative expression. So when the internet came out, I started having some conversations with Mary Atwood about photographs being downloaded, hers or ones that I might want to download to use as a reference. And I wondered, if this is legal. And I did some research and there were lots of questions. So that started my journey into this. The answer was basically that it was not, but of course there's a lot of gray areas. But I also started lecturing artists and attorneys on copyright law and visual arts. And my first impulse was to do, I need some merch. I'll do a quick, top 10 things you should know about copyright. And then as I got into it, I found that really not useful. It's like showing people what the tip of the iceberg is, but there's still a big iceberg underneath it that you need to know about. And it's also, I think, more understandable when you have the whole picture as opposed to all these little rules.
Yeah, so, it's quite in depth. It's quite in depth. I mean, I'm looking at the different chapters and sections in your book, and some of it I knew, but a lot of it I didn't. There was a lot of details that I read through, and I was like, well, boy, I didn't know that.
Well, my process with writing it also is, I usually paint with a pretty broad brush unless it comes to legal stuff, and then I'm a real stickler. I want every comma in the right place. And
sure.
I'm a litigator, and I'm used to having to cite to my authority. So my process with writing this is I wrote it legally and then I translated it into English, but it's still dense enough legally that I have 20 pages of footnotes, and it's a good primer for lawyers as an introductory text also. So that's kind of my process. And also I workshop the book in Women Writing for a Change writing circles in the room that I'm sitting in, and got feedback from a lot of non-lawyers as to whether they understood what I was talking about or not. And then I'm a visual learner. So illustrations kind of came to me that I wanted to work with.
So just
Well,
real quick on that feedback that you got, because you
it's
said you wrote.
a very well illustrated book too, by the way.
Thank you.
So you went, you workshopped it, but you wrote the legalese first, and then you kind of reworked it for the layperson.
Yes.
Was that part of the workshop feedback, or was that something you intended on doing to begin with?
Well, I didn't want to write it for lawyers because I really enjoy working with artists. I mean, I've been a lawyer my whole life, and I've spent a lot of time with them, and I like them just fine. But I really feel that artists need the knowledge, and it's more fun for me. And also, what I found at the beginning, which was kind of surprising to me, but also not so surprising, was that artists readily grasp the concepts as quickly as new lawyers did also. So I lecture and I try and get less and less legal as I go along. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was just kind of curious, on the workshop side of things, how that helps a writer,
It helped me a lot. I brought different sections to my writing group. And so they became familiar with what I was doing and my style and would offer me feedback like that has a good flow. I'm confused. Too much detail, not enough detail. That's funny. That's boring, that sort of thing. And encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't write this for myself to read. So if people don't understand it, then it's not doing its job.
Right. And that leads me to my next point, what Jim brought up. How do you balance the legalese, the analytical side of it with your artistic creativity, the artistic side of you?
I don't know if you ever take those personality tests with like whether you're left-brained or right-brained. I'm split pretty much down the middle. Like I'm very creative and I'm also very analytical. And I switch back and forth between them. And I'll find if I'm spending too much time being doing legal analysis and whatever, my brain is like screaming like, go paint a picture. And then if I'm spending a lot of time just painting pictures and I'll be like, yeah, I really just need to get into something a little meatier, a little more structured. So, but they're kind of a good mix for me.
Good. I wanted to say hello to our audience members too while you're out there. And just a quick note as we move further on, if you are in the audience and you'd like to ask any questions of Deborah or Jim or myself, go right ahead and use the chat function right there. And a quick disclaimer we talked about before we went live here, no legal advice, buddy. No legal advice on here. You got to go buy the book and then get real legal advice from an attorney. Right, Deborah?
That's right. Thank you.
Now, you were talking about registering your copyright earlier, registering a copyright. Can you explain?
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
to the layperson about what exactly is a copyright? And
okay.
Why is it important to register your copyright?
Okay. I can do both. A copyright is a bundle of rights that are given to an artist or a creator to incentivize them to share their work with the public. They're given the exclusive rights under the current law to reproduce it, or quite literally the copyright, display it, distribute it, perform it, or make derivative works. The actual primary purpose of copyright law is for public enrichment, for people to share their works, but this is kind of a carrot and stick approach. Under US law currently, which it has only been for like the past 50 years or so, upon creation of an original work of art, you automatically own the copyright in it. You don't have to do anything to own the copyright. However, if you want to enforce your copyright against someone else who is stealing your work, you want to sue them, you can't do that without registering it first. And that can take several months. So, I represent a number of clients in creative endeavors. I have one client that designs wallpapers and fabrics, and she registers them on an annual basis as a collection because it can get pricey if you're paying $35 for everything that you do. But it's important, it's important to do the more commercially your work is used or someone else is taking advantage of it.
Sure.
Sure. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. How does
Okay.
and one thing that I'm curious about, and it just hit me when I was out on the back porch talking to my cats. It hit me. I said, with copyrights of physical materials and paintings and prints and things like that, and books and so forth, is there for people that have like installations of artwork? It's still physical, but it's like a built-up piece, in a museum. Is there copyright, protections for someone who does that?
I'm not sure what the installation you have in mind is, but an installation can be a sculpture. For anything to be copyrightable, it has to be original, and it also has to be in a fixed format. Me thinking about a great idea does not make it copyrightable. Me writing it out, what I've written would be copyrightable, but once you share an idea, it's free for anyone to use. They can't use my particular depiction or description of an idea, but they can use the idea. That's kind of a hard concept. One judge whose name I like to quote, his name is Learned Hand, so who doesn't want to quote him? But the line between an idea and expression is never really fixed, and it's really hard to determine, and it always will be. So that's one of the more difficult concepts in copyright law. But a better, I think an easier, more accessible way to understand that is you can't copyright a fact. Like, I can't copyright what time it is now and what day we're doing this. You can copyright the recording of this, but anybody else in the world can say, hey, this podcast happened at this time, and these are the people that were involved. So you can't copyright history, which is why it can and is being rewritten.
It certainly is.
Really?
Really?
Can you elaborate on that just a bit?
Well, you can't copyright facts, and people always interpret history differently. And I think we're seeing that now in terms of what's allowed to be taught in schools and what's not allowed to be taught in schools. But kind of more where I think this is a beneficial thing is that you can go back and correct what's been reported wrongly.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
fake history.
Fake history. Alternative facts.
Alternative facts. And the fact that now you have those, AI, the large language models are building on things that were already written or already, photographs already taken, paintings already taken. And these learning models are basically, they're throwing together stuff that's already been done. So copyrights have been a real sticking point on a lot of those AI sites that I read. And I know that you have a section in your book on that.
I'll tell you the base, and they're being analyzed under basic issues, and there's not clear answers right now as to how it's going to go. But there's some pretty basic concepts. in terms of the large language models and what AI uses, what it takes in and then throws out, but what it takes in, the internet has been scrubbed and it takes in all this data. There's a lot of lawsuits, class action lawsuits by lawyers and not by lawyers, I meant by artists and authors, that this is an infringement of their copyright because you've taken my whole piece and you've used it and I've not been compensated. There's a defense to copyright infringement called fair use, which means, without getting too far into the weeds, the pat definition of it is that in some instances you can use copyrighted work without payment or permission. If I
was to do a quote from your book on a newscast, is that an example of that?
That's an example of fair use, because there would be no criticism or commentary if I said, no, you can't talk about my book unless you want to say great things about it. Then I'll let you do that. So yes. So criticism and commentary are one of the main factors in fair use, and whether you're using the whole thing. At any rate, I'll give you an example of what happened previously. Google had a library project several years ago where they copied thousands and thousands and thousands of books and then did a search engine type thing that you could put in what you were looking for and they would tell you, but the output of this would only be a short phrase, or it was not the whole book. So Authors Guild and many other authors sued Google for this, saying it's a copyright infringement, and the courts found that it was fair use because they weren't usurping the original person's market. They weren't selling the whole book. They were just telling somebody whether very particular information could be found in it. So that was fair use. What the difference is being argued by a lot of people that are in this controversy now, is that all of this information is being ingested, and some of it's been spit out pretty much whole cloth, depending on how you query something. Like, I would like a painting of a bird in the style of Picasso with a green background, or, just as a rough example. So they're kind of classic issues in terms of what AI is taking in, whether that's an infringement. There's another big issue as to whether work that is created using AI is eligible for copyright protection. And the issue there is whether AI can be an author, because under US law, authors must be humans. Now, you can get copyright protection for work that you've used with Photoshop, but it's been rejected thus far in a lot of AI programs because it's being analogized to just being random.
The current weather is 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
I could put in the same query and get several different results. So it's not, they're saying that's not enough human input.
Right.
I think it'll be a question of degree. And as things develop and as the technology changes, that'll evolve.
Yeah.
But
and
copyright.
Yeah, there were two large announcements in the AI world this past week. With ChatGPT 4 Omega was just released, and it is lightning fast. I have it, and Google has, Google just re-released Gemini, which is another astounding AI program. So for a while there, people were reading Pi, and it was really fast. But this new Gemini is lightning fast. These two announcements this past week are really incredible.
Well, so can I ask you something here? Because I just want to draw a line between influence and the collage of stuff that AI has scrubbed from the internet and drew your Picasso for you. That's right. So, you say, well, I'm copyright, I'm to the AI was inspired or influenced by Picasso, but Tom Petty can also say, a big influence of mine was Bob Dylan.
Right.
And a lot of his stuff sounds like Bob Dylan. So what's the difference between, and I'm just devil's advocating here. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. So what's the difference between, Tears for Fears making a Beatlesque album on purpose, right? It sounds very Beatlish, or AI, taking, a bird head from some artist and twisting its ear off to make it look like a van. You know what I mean? So what's the difference?
Well, I don't know that there is a difference, and I don't know that making an album in the style that sounds like the Beatles is a copyright infringement, or being influenced by, or some of Tom Petty's work sounding like Bob Dylan is a copyright infringement either. It's what the question is, whether they copied an actual piece of work of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't get to have a copyright on a style. That kind of stuff is and certainly not either one of those examples, but that's more like branding and trademark protection, which is very different than copyright protection. It's only specific to certain goods, and there's a whole different analysis there. But it's another form of intellectual property. But a lot of things you can't copyright. Like you can't copyright a utilitarian object, and you can't copyright. Maybe Beatlesque is kind of an idea that can't be copyrighted, I think would be my quickest answer. And, tomorrow morning I'm going to say, damn, the answer is exactly this, but I'll let you know.
So that's interesting concept, because it's like, all right, well, I have something that, by law, I copyright. I wrote a book, a novella, a poem,
right.
Whatever, right? I can't copyright an idea. But then that kind of leads me to, well, what's the difference between a copyright, a trademark, and a patent?
Okay.
Which goes to what?
Okay. Copyright is the intellectual property that protects creative endeavors. It protects books, fiction, paintings, sculptures, poetry, theater, performance, movies. Trademark is the intellectual property that protects your brand and your marketing. Your logo can be copyrighted. Your name can be copyrighted in conjunction with particular goods. For trademark protection, you have to use it in connection with particular goods or services in commerce. It has to be used. It goes back to like your, basic brand, where they used to brand cattle. Well, you're using this symbol and saying, that's mine. And the test for trademark infringement is whether there is a likelihood of confusion among the public as to the source of the goods or services.
We were kind of talking about that earlier before you came on.
If somebody came up with a podcast that was Tracy Rick's The Contract Project, that would be causing confusion. Yeah. That's a trademark issue. Patents protect methods.
Write that down.
Patents protect methods, inventions, processes, and things of that nature. There's a much higher bar for getting a patent, and really to be a patent attorney, you have to have a degree in an undergrad degree, at least in a science such as engineering or physics or whatever. But
is that kind of line where you cross where you own an idea? I own a patent. I own this idea that's engineered in such a way.
Yeah, but somebody else. Yes, generally it gets a little bit deeper into the weeds than that. But yeah, That's where you would go with that. But it would be the particular way that you do it. If somebody can get there doing it differently.
Sure. It's like, all the different mobile phones out there, they all have,
right.
They all have, screens on the front of them.
Exactly.
And everybody has a screen. You can't patent a screen, but you can patent it.
Well, the screens have been patented. But here's the thing with patents. The protection is only 20 years.
Yeah.
So Coca-Cola, you can't copyright a recipe either. They could have patented the recipe at some point, but then it would have been public knowledge because you have to divulge it. It's part of the public record to get your patent. But Coca-Cola, nobody still knows what the formula is because they've kept it secret. So there's a related field that's not technically intellectual property called trade secrets. So basically what you need to do to have a trade secret is to keep it secret. You can't have my secret recipe and then chat about it in the elevator and be upset when somebody copies it.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the other tools? Now we talk about using like images, let's say off some of the stock image sites, and you pay for the right to use it, or Pixabay for entrance tags. They've got music, images, graphics, all kinds of stuff you can use. But then again, there's that there are other tools, Creative Commons, DMCA, takedown notices.
Okay, since we just talked about AI, I'm just going to throw this out here, but it can be applied to other things. There's technology that's been developed and being developed where you can protect online images by something that screws up the pixels so somebody can't copy it. Mm-hmm. I don't have any particular experience with that, but you can also protect your work. And Creative Commons is a really cool thing. It's part of a copyleft movement. And you'll notice it on Wikipedia where it says you can use this and you can reproduce this in this context. There's 6 different elements that you can kind of mix and match, which is attribution. Like this, you can use this for whatever you want to use it for as long as you give me credit for it and say it was by me. Right. Or you can say, well, you have to say it was by me. You can't change anything about it and you can't use it commercially. And you can affix that to your images or whatever, and people have to follow that if they want to. That's a condition of using it. They've got a good website. If I were going to give a recommendation about how to protect it, I would read their licenses and do that. Mm-hmm. There's also what's called DMCA takedown notices. If somebody is infringing your work online, or you think they are, I do a painting and a t-shirt of it shows up on somebody else's website. I contact the host platform. They should have a form called a takedown form. And I say, hey, that's mine. This is why it's mine, la, la, la. And they will take it down. The other person has a certain amount of time, like 10 days, to object to it and say, no, she's wrong. That's not hers. In that case, you'd have to go to court. But I've had really good results with them because people's website can get shut down. Lots of things can happen if they get too many of these. Mm-hmm. It's easy. It costs you nothing, and it's pretty effective. And there's certain elements that have to be in it, but use Facebook has it, as do Instagram and Etsy and any kind of a hosting platform. Use the one that they give you because they're the ones who are going to process it. Right. There's also a new small claims division of the U.S. Copyright Office, which has been operating for not quite a year yet. It's getting some pretty good reviews, and you can file claims with an aggregate of up to $30,000. So that's another avenue.
That's good to know because you never know. You never know when something's going to happen. With so many images being used online, and I use images all the time in my posts. Some of them are AI. Some of them I get off ChatGPT 4. Some of them I get off Midjourney. Some of them I get off. I create memes with Canva, but there are a lot of AI groups out there on Facebook now where people are taking these images and selling them on products on Etsy. They've got their Etsy shops, and a lot of it that's causing some of them some problems is the graphics and so forth that they're creating using Canva, because Canva has a very specific they have a very specific set of rules about that. If you're using, portions of their graphics in your design, you can't sell it.
Okay. That brings up a good point. I mean, that's good for everybody to know about Canva in particular, but it also brings up a point about anytime you say you click on I agree to the terms and conditions, you have just entered into a contract, and that will be enforced.
Right.
So people just kind of click and go, and but if you've agreed not to use it otherwise, in addition to having, a copyright claim against somebody, you have a breach of contract claim against them. So it gives you a little bit more ammunition.
It's a lot to know. There's a lot of rules and ins and outs to know out there. If you're a creative of any kind, whether it be art or writing, there's a lot to learn. What is Deborah? What is the now? We already know that AI is changing the way people are looking at art and thinking about art and art of any kind, whether it be writing or visual art. But what is the what would be the difference between, for people that are writers, being publishing versus self-publishing contracts?
Oh, okay. Well, as with any contract, my advice to everyone and my clients and everyone else is that you need to know what the contract says. You need to actually read it.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand what it means, don't agree to it. There are a lot of hybrids now too, but here's the difference between self-publishing and publishing in a nutshell. When you have a publisher, you don't have to do everything. That's the benefit of having a publisher. And when you self-publish, the benefit of self-publishing is that you get to do everything. So I had a publisher, a textbook publisher that was interested in publishing the book. Okay. I'm holding this up for a particular reason right now. And, most of the there's a lot of color in the book.
There is.
All of the illustrations are in color. And the publisher was like, this is great. We think there's a good market for it. We really like it. You're the right person to write it. But we can only do 7 color illustrations. And I said, then you can't do my book. It's all about color and how it's formatted so that it's, I want it to be a visual experience as well. So I worked with Mary Atwood on this, and I can't tell you how many hours she spent and we spent in front of the computer being like, no, that needs to be larger. No, we need more white space. We're both artists, and these were things that were important to us. Right. So you get to do that. And I think another benefit of self-publishing is that I get a larger chunk of the royalties.
Yeah.
You get
and nothing wrong with that.
With traditional. No. We did the work, we get the compensation.
Yep, nothing wrong with that. Now you also
work though, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
More than I ever imagined when I started it.
It's beautiful.
What was the biggest challenge of self-publishing? What was your like if you were to say the biggest chunk of, or the most significant part of the work was XYZ, what would that be?
In terms of the self-publishing, that wasn't a problem at all. I mean, we just uploaded it. The arduous part of it was just writing it. I mean, I just had to sit myself down in a chair for 3 hours a day and say, I'm not getting up until I've, finished this or done that or whatever. And biggest challenge for me is to get into the headspace to do it. I'll be like, oh, I need to walk the dog. I need to, whatever else I need to do.
Yeah.
So
I'm the same way. Before I sit down and work on this book or this song or whatever, I got to walk the dog, wash the dishes, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yep. Yeah, that was the biggest challenge for me. And then just, as I was thinking, oh, well, now I'm almost done. It was like, well, no, now I have to do an index, or Mary has to do an index, or whatever. But I found that I could work on this in like 6-week stints. Like, okay, I'll do this big push. And then I didn't want to look at it again for a month. And then I would do it again. But then it took like 5 years to get this done. And I finally just stopped talking to people about it. They were like, how's the book? I was like, I'm not talking about it, because the next thing I want to say about it is it's done. I am not going to say it's almost done one more time.
It can be almost done for a really long time.
It was a really long time that this was almost done.
Yeah.
A really long time.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned.
I think it's really important when you're.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
Yeah. No, I was going to say you mentioned Mary several times, and of course I knew that she was
right.
Helped you with the book and everything, and she's been on the podcast as well.
I know.
Now you're doing some speaking engagements and so forth and things like that, lectures, I suppose, with her as well.
Yeah, with Mary, we're going to do a presentation for the Florida Artist Group at their annual symposium. There's 600 members. They're having it in Jacksonville, and we're going to do a presentation on collaboration, self-publishing, and how we work together. And I'll just say this. We work easily and well together. And I think one of the reasons that we worked so easily and well together as things went on, after we kind of settled into figuring out who was going to do what, we sat down and wrote a contract. You're going to do this. I'm going to do that. You're going to own this. I'm going to own that. And it kept things clear. And one of the pitfalls with collaboration between artists is, let's say you collaborate on something, you don't have an agreement about it at all, and you both put in a substantial amount of work. Mm-hmm. Each of you are a co-author, each of you own the copyright in the whole thing, and each of you can do whatever you want with it, subject only to an accounting after you've done it. This can be chaos. I mean, imagine if Jim, you write a book with somebody and then they sell the screenplay to something that you don't want. So it's important to, and it can just be basic things. You don't have to get into really detailed stuff, but it's important to write it down too, because I think more, people aren't always trying to screw you, but they remember things differently. And if it's in writing, it's there.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, and always read the small print.
Read everything.
I've never really thought about that. I'm big on collaboration. A lot of projects I've done. Right. But I've never really had an agreement outside of a verbal thing. It's like when Barbara directed All the Angels. I wrote the book. I had no idea how to write a theatrical script.
Uh-huh.
Right? So we didn't agree to this in advance, but I said, "Can you help me?" Because it was like, because my book was very heady. There wasn't.
I saw the production. Yeah, it was excellent.
Right, you were there.
I was.
And thank you. That was over at Players by the Sea, but. We had to create dialogue to make the story, because my book wasn't full of dialogue. It was a lot of head stuff.
Right.
But it turned out, but some people, you just kind of trust with your life, and she's one of them. So, I knew everything. Anybody that we collaborated, we knew that we were going to do their best, and fortunately, it worked out great with that and To the Sea. Mm-hmm. But on a project like what you're doing, I can totally get why it would be like, yes, we need to write this down, and have an agreement about who's going to do what. Because sometimes somebody can do 90% of the work.
Yeah. This book is full of horror stories about things like that happened. Yeah. Somebody does 2% and they're selling it, or, it's a good idea to put things in writing and to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I wonder how musicians deal with that, Tracy. It's like, Lennon and McCartney or whatever, a couple of songwriters, and he wrote this lyric and he did this guitar riff and he wrote that verse and they wrote that chorus. And I guess somewhere they probably had an agreement.
They had to, and you'll look through history. There's a lot of the rock and rollers and the big names in the industry that have had major problems with the copyrights and the ownership of the material.
There's lots of litigation there.
A lot of it.
I have a colleague who has a website. I think it's called Rock and Roll Law, but he's written this type of book for musicians, and it's a great resource. His name is Jim Jesse, and I think it's copyright for musicians. So if anybody has those kind of issues, I'd recommend that. The basic principles are the same, but music has a whole superstructure built on top of it statutorily with ASCAP and BMI and mandatory licensing, and it's really complex.
Yeah. Before we go, we know that you're going to have a great big old book launch in down in Jacksonville, Florida. There tomorrow, as a matter of fact, May the 16th. Tell us a little bit about that launch you're going to have.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a little bit of law and a lot of fun. It's going to be at Babs Lab, which is in the Cork Art District. The entrance is off of Phyllis Street, across from the Yellow House parking lot. I've tied a big red ribbon around the telephone pole out front so you can find it. I'm going to do a short presentation at 6:00 and 7:00. I'm going to do like 10 things you should know about copyright, and Mary's going to read a story from the book that illustrates them. Other than that, we're having champagne and Kir Royales and cookies and hors d'oeuvres and music, and it'll be fun. So
you had me at cookies.
Okay, there you go. And the cookies are going to have copyright symbols iced on top of them.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's clever.
No.
So let me write this down.
And there are also swag bags that Mary has gone crazy over. So come for those alone.
All right. So Babs Lab. What day?
Tomorrow, Thursday. May 16th.
Yep. And I'm assuming
books.
I'm assuming there's going to be some opportunity to get signed copies from you, Deb.
Absolutely. I'll personalize them.
Well, it sounds like a hoot. Jim, you got any last words for us?
No, not really. I just really appreciate Deborah coming on, because I remember when I met Deborah, while I didn't ask for legal advice, I did ask a lot of how-tos, because, back in those, this was quite a while. We were talking about 2013, 14, 15, kind of around that area when all
we
the
were
angels...
in a play together.
Which play was that? Was that Barbara's play?
Yeah. Okay.
Tamagami?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we were. That was over at the Good Shepherd.
Right.
That's right. And so, and I had all kinds of stuff to copyright, two plays and a book, and the play was a derivative thing, and one of the plays was a derivative thing. And I had already gone through, I own a patent, and I already gone through that.
That's impressive.
And I just found it very difficult, and it took like a year of lawyers, and because I share it with a bank I won't mention their name, but so I was just very naive. I was exploding with creativity at the time, and so it was kind of like nice that Deborah was going around town and as you were starting your advocacy, and showing us artists the ropes, So yeah, so the community appreciates you, definitely.
Oh, well,
thank
sure. You so much. How nice.
Yeah.
It's been a joy having you here, Deborah. Have you got any closing thoughts for us?
Thank you. Come to the book launch.
Well,
it was fun. Thank you so much for having me.
That's all they need to know. You got to go to Bab's Lab. This podcast will be aired on our YouTube channel on the day of the launch, which will be May the 16th, Thursday. I believe the doors open at 5:30, if I'm correct.
That's right.
5:30 to 7:30, I believe it is.
Yep. Come in, have a drink, leave, whatever you need to do.
Get a book.
Not
get
ticketed.
Get
a
book.
Open to the public. Buy a book.
Buy a book. Get it signed.
Venmo, PayPal, cash. Yeah.
Venmo.
Get you one of them. Get you one of them snazzy swag bags.
Absolutely.
All right. It was, like I said, it was thanks. A joy having you here. And Jim, it was good seeing you again. And Deb, we'll see you soon.
Good to see you too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us out there.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.